Domain names and hosting. What are they and why are they important? The analogy that I like to use to explain domain names and hosting is home ownership. Consider that your website is the house in this scenario, like it's the physical entity that people are trying to visit, right? So, in this analogy, a domain name would be the house's address. Much like how you would type in 123 North Chicago Avenue into your GPS, you would type in your website's domain name into Google's search bar in order to be redirected to the website. So, once more, your domain name is your website's address. Like, my domain name is www.sun-soil.com. Facebook's domain name is www.facebook.com. You get the idea. That's a domain name. One thing that is important to note, though, is that not all domains have to end in .com. There are like so many extensions out there, such as .net, .org, .edu, .photo, .ly, .io, like literally so many. So don't feel like you're being restrained by using a .com domain name. All right, sidetracked, back to the analogy. Your website is your house, your domain name is your address, so what the heck is hosting? In this case, hosting is the land that your house is built on. Hosting is the space on the internet that you pay for your website to be built on. So if you've ever used like Wix or Weebly or Squarespace, they've been supplying you with hosting through their monthly fees, and that's probably why you've never heard of it before if you've used those providers. But what we're going to talk about today is actually called self-hosting. Basically, self-hosting is a way for you to buy your own plot of internet land instead of renting it from other people like Wix or Squarespace or whatever. Later, actually, we'll talk about the benefits of self-hosting, but for now, let's go back to talking about domain names. So, we know what a domain name is, and we know what hosting is, so we're going to talk about how to pick a domain name, what to do if your domain name is taken, and how much you should expect to pay for a domain name. In the next video, we'll discuss how and where to purchase a domain, but for now, we're just going to talk about picking the right domain name for you. So here's some things to consider when choosing a domain name. Your domain should be as short as possible. Why? Because you want it to be easy for people to remember, even if they don't have your business card in front of them. Your domain should be easy to say and to hear. So practice saying your domain name out loud a couple of times before purchasing it. And think to yourself, if you had to say your website address over the phone to a client, would they be able to understand you the first time, or would you have to repeat yourself multiple times? Like, for example, my domain name, which is www.sun-soil.com. If I were to say that to you, like right now, over the internet, you would probably think, is it S-U-N or S-O-N? I don't really know. So my domain is actually an example of a bad domain name because it's not simple enough to say and hear in order to understand. And lastly, if possible, your domain should have a keyword in it. A keyword in this case is like the most generic word that your customers would be Googling in order to find your service. So for example, if your company is called Elizabeth Jane Photography, the word photography, photographer, or photo would be your keyword. When people are looking for your photography services, they will be Googling some form of the word photography. So include that in your domain in order to increase your chances of being found. All right, number 2, there's a high chance that your domain will already be taken. So what I recommend is to make a list of 3 to 5 domain names that you would be satisfied with in order to increase your chances of finding one that's available. And I've listed a couple of examples here so you can see what I mean by that. Number 3, try to think long-term about your domain name. Changing your domain name after building your website, although doable, is really risky in terms of SEO. So note that. Find a domain that you like and you're going to have to stick with it. And lastly, domain names are purchased on a year, 2-year, or 3-year basis traditionally, and they can range from like $1 to multi-millions of dollars per year. The more obscure your domain name is, the cheaper it will be. So For example, I own a domain that is literally called www.qpzm.site, and it costs me $1 because nobody in the world wants that domain name but me. Versus domains like carinsurance.com, which are universally wanted, are going to be millions of dollars. You, though, should expect to pay roughly between like $15 and $20 a year for your domain, assuming you're a normal person and not, a billion-dollar company. Okay, back to hosting. In this last part, let's go over the benefits of self-hosting and where to purchase a hosting plan and a domain. First of all, we're going to be building our website using WordPress.org. Unlike Wix or Squarespace or the other website builders, WordPress is completely free. Like I mentioned previously, when you use website builders like Wix, you need to pay a monthly fee that also includes your hosting in it. Since WordPress is free, we need to purchase our own hosting separately. And this might sound like a bad thing, but hear me out. Sites like Wix and Squarespace cost between $13 and $40 a month to use. WordPress, on the other hand, is entirely free, has no access hierarchy, like you get everything that you want out of it for the same price of free, and self-hosting costs start at like $3 a month, saving you $120 or more a year over the other options. All right, very, very last thing here. There are probably hundreds of options of places that you can buy hosting, but the most popular 3 right now are going to be Bluehost, SiteGround, and HostGator. You can purchase hosting from any of these companies and probably any other company that you can find on the internet. But in the next video, I'm going to show you exclusively how to set up your domain and hosting using HostGator. I'm going to do this because I personally use HostGator. I use it for my website, all the domains that I own, all the hosting that I need, and I've been doing this for many years. So I trust this company, and that's why I continue to choose them. But like I said, you can use any hosting provider you want, and your website will set up the exact same way. So join me in the next video where I'll show you how to check your domain's availability, purchase your domain, purchase hosting, and install WordPress. See you there.